This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express Monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's pod. This is the week in review of August 7th, 2021. And I have to get used to Phil not going away from the microphone. Again, another week where I have to rotate around this because I'm going to start.
The visual of you I'm
going to have to start drifting on this guy here. This week is going to be an interesting show. We're going to talk about Disney's very own mortgage program that they're going to be releasing hopefully soon because we all need it. Laugh Floor is going to have a soft open, maybe. Remy previews are going on for AP and cast members. Let's see. We're getting the pricing of the Disneyland AP program, which I suspect is going to be a little bit similar. And then, of course, we were talking about this before we just went on the air. Phil, now postponed my trip for February from October. I suspect that I'm not the only one doing this right now.
Or at least thinking about it.
Yeah. So we're doing it now in February. So there's some bonuses. Maybe we'll do a show where we can start weighing the pros and cons of what does October versus February mean in temperatures and all that other stuff. I think that might be interesting. I still don't know. I've never been down there in February, so it should be really cool. But we have, as everybody's watching, the young man in the center of the screen between Phil and I, Matt is on the show from the DCI Index. Matt, friend of the show. Welcome back, sir. Thank you for coming back on.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
So we're going to be rocking and rolling. The first thing of the week, as always, we're going to go and we're just going to show the DCI, but the DBC Expedition this week is, of course, DCI. We're going to do a deep dive. Matt's going to do a little bit of the he's filling in previous months, starting from when the parks reopened, leading up until, when did we start, Matt, the original DCI?
April. April was the first numbers we put out there.
So we've got 8 months to kind of basically backfill and see kind of the progression of the DCI over time, which I think is really awesome. So anyway, this week's DCI, we're at 68.16. And Matt, I think we had a 1% increase you were talking about. I think I saw on Discord you were chatting about that.
Yep.
What was that primarily the driver for that one?
So we got Hall of Presidents back. Yuckman Steakhouse is back. Toledo's is back. Columbia Harbor House. So we've got some good quick service stuff in. I also did include Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor.
Ooh, I didn't realize that.
Back.
Okay.
As well as
Very
Nine
cool.
Dragons reopened, even though they're not taking reservations yet. They're still seating people now. So it's good to get some Epcot stuff back. Yeah,
we're going to do a deep dive at the last part of the show. But first, as always, we have Phil and the news.
So some good news. I think we're going to try to focus on positive stuff this week, I think. And one thing that we're always monitoring is the hiring processes at Walt Disney World, because I think when, where they're trying to hire more cast members for, recently there'd been a big trend of trying to get more cast members for working in food and beverage and a few other areas. But this week it came out that they are looking to hire more Monorail and Skyliner cast members. So trying to beef up the staff at some of those transportation methods. I guess they're feeling a little overworked there, or else perhaps it's going to correspond to, maybe longer park hours coming. We saw that too. They've announced some of the park hours coming in the fall. They've extended, starting in October, or I think a few days in September, but then every day in October, Epcot's going to be opening at 10 in the morning instead of 11. So I think, maybe that
was the big change, right? Everything else seemed kind of usual time, right?
Yeah, I mean, every now and then when they extend the new hours, it's like, oh, this park's open an hour later or something like that. But the big kind of change from how things have been operating is that Epcot will be opening at 10 instead of the 11 that they've been doing of late. The other interesting hiring thing is that they've been hiring more parking lot attendants, which people are hopeful will mean this also could portend the trams are going to be coming back soon, which, like I said, we're going to try to keep it positive, but that's one thing that I've been a little critical of Disney for now. I mean, they've been open for a while now. Attendance is getting up there. Those parking lots are starting to get full, and they still haven't been running the trams. So
that's crazy to me.
Yeah. So I think hopefully that the trams will be on their way soon. So, obviously there's always, it's always good to see more hiring going on. We know for the in the food and beverage, they've been offering bonuses and stuff like that. So hopefully they can get some more people and get some good people and build up some of that staff, because it seems like the crowds have been increasing faster than the cast member count,
which is amazing to me right now.
Yeah. Mentioned just previously by Matt about Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor, which doesn't have the best acronym in the world. It was announced that it's going to be opening on August 8th, which a little, I guess, peek behind the scenes is today, but it actually opened up several days early. Just kind of soft opened and was basically, well, we're open. I think on the 5th was the first day that it was reported. So it's good to see another attraction opening. This is one, again, where they're, full seating and they have the interaction with for those of you that haven't done this attraction. I know it's not one everyone's done.
I've never done it.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun attraction. It's not like one of those like, oh my God, my trip's ruined if I don't do it. But I think it's a fun attraction where they use good technology to have the animation similar to Turtle Talk with Crush, but in this case it's with monsters from Monsters Inc. and how they can talk to the audience, and you can submit jokes beforehand that they might use them and that sort of thing. So it's a fun show, and it's also a good kind of break in the hot weather. Got a lot of AC going in there and stuff like that.
Before we get to the next topic, why don't you jump ahead to the other one that we might be doing some previews coming up in the next couple of weeks?
Sure. So the next story that I will now be talking about is that another attraction that's opening soon. The official opening date is October 1st. However, it has been announced that there will be a number of previews for Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. I think on our last episode, we mentioned that cast members were going to get preview dates, which I thought was great. Following that, it came out that DVC members would have preview opportunities, a handful of dates in September for that. But then kind of the big thing that came out was for annual pass holders. And that note just kind of went out and was like, yep, we're taking reservations now. And hopefully you got the email or you got somebody to send you the link or whatever. But the good thing was it was for most of September. I mean, not every day, but like more than half the days in September, they were going to have these previews, and they were like every hour on the hour. And so as long as you kind of tried that morning, when the note went out, I think pretty much everybody was able to get one that wanted to. Now, some people didn't see the email and didn't get it until after, and they weren't able to get it, especially if they were looking for weekend dates. Seemed like the weekend dates went pretty quick. But overall, lots of previews. So I think this is going to be great. Similar to what the Universal did, I think, with Velocicoaster, where they had all those soft openings. So by the time the grand opening day came there, like pretty much everybody had already ridden it.
Yeah, and there wasn't lines out the door for it.
Exactly. So as somebody who's still planning on being there on October 2nd, I hope this means it won't be quite the madhouse that it would have been if that was literally the second day of operations for people.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think one of the big stories that came out this past week, though, is, I know obviously we tend to be Florida focused, but in Disneyland, whole big thing about what was going to happen with the replacement of their annual pass program. And it got really revealed that it was going to be called the Magic Key program. And the details of that program came out this past week. And I think the kind of the overall messaging, or what I was hearing from a lot of Disneyland fans, was that they were pleasantly surprised that the pricing was not worse than it was.
Well, Matt, what was your initial reaction to that?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I think everybody kind of feared the worst with the new program, and for the most part, it seems pretty reasonable to me. The way they have it in tiers with the reservation system, I think it's a good fit.
Yeah, that is one key thing with it, is they are going to have reservations, similar to how Walt Disney World, the annual pass holders have to make reservations. But what they did was, depending on your level, you would get fewer or more reservations up to the top level, which they call their Dream Key, which you can make up to 6 reservations at a time, which I think for the Florida pass holders, if you said you could have 6, that would make them quite happy versus the current 3 that they're limited to now.
Mm-hmm.
And just to go through pricing, this top level, which basically, you can get in every day of the year, no blackout dates, is $1,399. They are keeping the monthly program for California residents, so that comes out to $102 per month. So when you think about it, it's sort of less than the price of one ticket per month. And that gets you, basically no blackout dates. It goes down from there to $949 for the next level, $649, and then the lowest level is $399. Obviously, that will come with a lot of blackout dates. You're not going to be able to get into a lot of the on weekends and things like that. But when you think about it, if you're able to go to the dates that it's available, that comes out to $19 a month to go to Disneyland.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty great.
Well, let me ask you guys. Okay,
I was going to say one thing I found interesting was the excessive no show rule that they have.
That's interesting.
Which is kind of interesting. They want people, if you have a reservation, to show up. But don't make reservations that are wasted. They're really trying to quantify who's coming to be able to spread the crowds out. And I thought that was interesting. And I wonder if that is going to come to Disney World.
I'm pretty sure it's going to come to like their Florida Locals Pass. They're going to have a similar thing for that. I guarantee that. My question, you guys, if pricing like this comes about for Walt Disney World, what is your price point for getting an AP for your family? As we're all out-of-staters, we're all in the northeast area of the country. So when we go down there, it's typically expensive, right? It's a flight, it's a couple days, that type of thing. Phil, you're doing like a little bit of a year at Disney, so you guys are going down. So you might actually have a need for an AP. That might be a good investment for you guys. But what is your breaking point? Because when you buy an annual pass, because I doubt they're going to have a monthly payment for out-of-state people.
No.
So family of 5, the old dream key would be 1,400 times 5. So you're looking at $7,000, right? So no one's dropping $7,000 on tickets for a full year. That's tough. So what would be your price point to dive in? You think?
So I think if it's at that level, which is usually what it is for out-of-state for Walt Disney World, you had to have kind of that platinum level pass. It would be that we were planning on having at least 2 kind of full week trips, and that we were thinking that we could probably fit in a third. I think at that point it kind of makes more sense. And then you get the discounts and stuff like that, especially if we were planning on staying on property for all of them, to get the kind of the room discounts and things like that, and the merchandise discounts. I know in the past sometimes we've worked things where we would get 1 annual pass, and then we would get Tables in Wonderland card, which no word if that's coming back. But especially if you had a large group, sometimes just with the discounts, you could kind of make everything work out. But if we're thinking about a pass for all of us, it would be like 2 big trips, and then thinking that we'd probably fit in a third. That third one I think needs to be kind of on the radar to make it worthwhile.
Well, let me ask you this then. So you're talking about what it makes sense over, if you annualize your ticket spending in a year, right? Like obviously if we spend more than $7,000 in tickets over the course of a full year, yes, you're going to drop it. But is there a price point where you would say like, I can't even write that check all at once now? Like, 'cause to me, like that's a lot of money anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we're probably getting there. I mean, to be honest, we've never had annual passes for all of us, so I've never had to cut the $7,000 check or whatever.
Yep.
So it would definitely have to be like, okay, this is what we're doing for our vacation fund for the year or 2 years, and kind of save up for it or whatever. I think that would probably be the limit. When you put it that way, of having to cut that $7,000 check, it's a little tough.
Matt, do you think they'll come out with multiple levels for out-of-state annual pass holders, like they're doing for Disneyland?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, they were always different than the way Disneyland had it set up, and the APs are just completely different. So, it's definitely a lot more locals in Disneyland than Disney World. So, I could see them doing something. I mean, they're gonna try to make it, financial, beneficial to them somehow. So, and I could see that, So, and for me, like, in terms of annual passes, and you guys have done the numbers before, right? It's typically like the return on investment was always like 10 days, right? 10 or 11 days, maybe.
Split up though, not on one vacation.
Right, exactly. So, if those numbers match up and you're planning 2 trips in a calendar year, it's definitely worth it to do it. So I'll be curious to see what the numbers are, and especially with us potentially going to December. I could see us getting an annual pass if I can talk, the family into going in November next year or something like that. But to get that third trip would be really, really challenging, like Phil was talking about. So is it worth it to do it at that point?
See, having moved in December, so I shaved 3 or 4 hours off my drive time now getting down there. And I can see getting an annual pass and convincing my wife to spend all the money on it. And then, hey, why don't we take a 3-day weekend? I'll just drive. We'll just hop. We'll go get like the cheap hotel or VRBO or something else like that. Right. Stay cheap. and try to do something like that, because then your expense is just like peanut butter sandwiches and jumping in the park, right? That's basically it.
I was gonna say, once you have the passes, it can be easy to talk yourself into making that third trip.
I'll drive down for 13 hours. Let's do this for 2 days for sure. And I think the only other news item that we have is at the end of this, that kind of surprised everybody. The APs are coming back.
Yes.
Right.
At the end of the story about the Magic Keys, it just said in time for the Walt Disney World 50th. Oh, so people are reading into that it would be available, somewhat beforehand, so that you could get them before the 50th. But it wasn't clear. It just said in time for the 50th.
Which is nice. I just flashed everybody the screenshot for that. And then, oh, wait, did I forget? I think I have one more news item. Did I forget something?
There's one in there just about that there's been sites of them testing out the Walt Disney World Railroad.
This makes me happy.
And similarly, also the scaffolding or the scrim that's been up over the Main Street train station has been coming down as well. Mm-hmm. So people are getting optimistic about what it could mean. There had been reports before of track being spotted over by the Tron work area, so people are hoping maybe they can try to get that tunnel up and get the track going. I mean, obviously Tron's not going to be open for the 50th, but as somebody
it's going to be open for my trip now in February. Am I hoping too much for that?
I wouldn't hold your breath, but but as somebody who loves the history and loves the history of Walt and stuff like that, I really would like to hear the train going around on the 50th birthday of his Florida
even
project.
If it's like parked somewhere, they could just
right. Yeah.
Even if they could just hear the whistle, that's all I want, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, even if they don't have the whole loop, maybe even they could have the characters come in and like have the train go off, and then maybe it just goes backwards out or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, hopefully there's some presence of the train for the 50th. And then you had in here this rumor, which I must admit I hadn't seen. So if you want to cover this one, but about I'm testing, I guess, some of the projections for the 50th.
I have no meat to this. Somebody passed me a note and said that they saw Imagineers testing the full 50th projections on Tower of Terror with music and dialogue. So there's going to be like a whole thing going on at Hollywood Studios for the 50th. So look forward to that. Hopefully, maybe we'll get some video from like from Riviera or something, like where you can potentially see it, where they're playing that music, similar to how they were testing like the Spaceship Earth and stuff with some of the lighting. So I didn't think they were going to have like a whole projection show, but maybe there is going to be something going on at
they said there was going to be that beacon of light, right, or whatever it was going to be, but I didn't know that the word dialogue got me. It was something I wasn't expecting. I thought it was just going to be kind of just some images and lights and stuff like that, but nothing. Not like a show. This sounds like a little bit more of
it might not be a show, but it may be like a rotating basis where they kind of just do some fun things like every 15 minutes. Because there's really no room to stand around down that way, and it's a big traffic jam if there were too many people. So I don't think they can put on too big of a show.
Well, they do the Christmas projections on Tower of Terror where they do kind of. It's like 15-minute long shows. Or whatever, so.
Like something that's repeatable, so people aren't jammed in there at one point every single day just to see it. So I suspect it would be something like that.
So we'll be on the lookout for that. But, it's exciting to see what's coming on the 50th. We're really not that we have our trip for the 50th, and I think this week I have to make my final payment. So it'll be here sooner before than we know it. But that'll do it for the news, and a reminder of our social media accounts: Twitter @PodDBC, Instagram, the DBC Podcast, Facebook, DBC Pod, the YouTube channel, and the Discord server.
Yay. So this week's...
One more thing about the news real quick.
Yeah,
we also got pricing for Starcruiser.
Oh, well, no. That's a whole topic. No, that we're gonna. That's where the mortgage payment comes into play.
The joke. I think the joke went over Matt's head. That's all right. That's all right.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
I probably should have said that before.
I missed the pre-show because I came late, so maybe you guys are talking about. My apologies. All right. Gotcha.
No. That's fine because the Starcruiser came out with all their payments and information, and it's just blew everybody away. Everybody's got tweets and shows about it, so we were gonna give it some extra attention as the weekly topic. But before we get there, we're going to real quick go over this week's Attractionality. This is the 20th Attractionality. This one, it's tough to be a bug at Animal Kingdom. We're going to flash some of the scores up here. We're going to go round table, what everybody kind of voted. I personally have I've only walked in on this. I haven't really stayed for the whole thing, so I'm not a very good judge for this whole thing. So I'm gonna kind of step back a little bit on some of these questions. Matt, have you partake in this attraction fully?
I did, yeah. So we did it a couple years ago. So it was. I think it's a blast. So what's the first question? I don't want to jump ahead.
No. Yep. So first question is, how much did you like the concept of this attraction? 3D show with active. Well, actually, let's and just in case no one knows about this out there, Disney World describes it as watch an off-bugway show. Become the honorary insect as you take a seat in the theater hidden at the base of the Tree of Life and don a pair of bug eye glasses. Enjoy a delightful 3D moving live show hosted by Flick, a lovable ant from A Bug's Life, and learn how insects survive in the wild. So the first question was, how much do you like the concept of this attraction? Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, you know what? I'm not sure if I voted, so this is a perfect time. I can give you some live results here. I would say I would give that a 4 out of 5. I definitely like the concept. I like the 3D, 4D experience that you get with it. And it's perfect for all ages, although it does scare children. I mean, my kids would not go on it the last time we went. They're petrified of it. But I think it kind of reaches everybody. It's a pretty good ride.
Phil, what did you vote?
So I also gave it a 4. Similar thoughts to what Matt said. I think just the idea of using this technology around the insects or around A Bug's Life and how it kind of ties more into another question, but how it fits into the park and what they were trying to do. I think it's a good mix of the technology and the ride system, for lack of a better word, and the IP used for it. So I think it's a good concept. Not like doesn't blow me away, but it's a good concept. So
see, I'm the same boat where it doesn't blow me away, but it's cool. So I gave it a 3. So I consider 3 average. It's not like I'm not waiting online for this thing, and I'm not I'm not hating it if I go on. I'm going to enjoy it as well. So it's kind of like, again, you always describe, is my vacation going to be ruined if I don't go on this? I don't think anybody's saying that. I think it's cool, and Disney's got a bunch of these around the different parks, so I dig it. So question number 2 is, how well do you think It's Tough to Be a Bug delivers for its target audience? I personally gave it a 3 because it's a fun, enjoyable ride, and I don't think kids are clamoring to go back in there. And Matt, I think your kids won't go back on it. So how would you vote on this one through 5?
Yeah, I would probably give that a 4. Again, I mean, if you have really young kids, it might spook them out, and you might lose them the next time you take them. But I think once they're like 8 or 9, I think you're set with that. I think it's perfect for their age group.
So the most people voted 4 on that, and previously question 1, most people gave it a 5. So a lot of people rated it higher than the 3 of us here. Phil. Does it deliver? How do you score that?
So I for its target audience, I gave it a 3, probably because of the fact that it scares some little kids, and it's kind of pitched as like sort of a whole all ages, like good thing for the family. It doesn't have a height, requirement and stuff like that. But then you get in there, and there are some moments in the dark when things happen. So I think I don't know, like I guess it's some of my crying. So where if kids wind up crying from it, it's hard for me to give it a too high of a score. So I gave it a 3.
And I gave it a 3. Again, this kind of ties into my conversation probably with question number 4. So I'll save this comment for that. I think just because it's just the opportunity cost. What else could they have done with this area? So does it deliver? Yeah, it is. Question number 3 is, how much do you personally enjoy It's Tough to Be a Bug? Matt, do you personally enjoy it? Where do you rate this thing?
Yeah. I would do it every time, especially if my kids. And my kids weren't petrified, because it's always a low wait. I mean, it's always a 5-10 minute wait, and especially in Animal Kingdom, there's not a ton of attractions there, so it's nice to just be able to do something you can walk on, and get in the AC because it's typically a hot park. So I definitely enjoyed it. I'd give it a 5.
Ooh, there you go. You're among the few at 5. Phil, how did you rate it?
I gave this one a 3 as well. I think I like it when we do it, but it's also, I was thinking back on it. I can't even remember the last time we've done it. It was definitely a few years ago. And when I'm sort of mapping out our day at Animal Kingdom, that never makes the plans, right? It's kind of one of those where, we have nothing else to do. We're kind of in the area. Anybody want to go do it type thing. So that's why I gave it a 3. But
last time I went, I totally forgot that it was there. Like everything on Discovery Island, I always tend to forget that it's there. I tipped a score and I gave it a 3 as well. I mean, it's weighted towards 3.5, 4 because that's where the bulk of the people that voted for it. I just giving it a 3 only because of it's just a theater show, right? So it's got some cool elements to it, but again, I guess it's just I guess you know what? I'm going to take this back. I think all parks need people eaters like that. We always complain about capacity, and they're just launching e-ticket attractions left and right. Parks need those E and D and C and B attractions. So I think they need those fillers that suck people up. So I'm not going to hate it for what it is. I think it's it's just a cool thing. Like it's like right in the middle for me. Question number 4 is the question I always like talking about in these shows because I think I can always design these parks better than everybody else that works for the BDI. Question 4 is how well do you think It's Tough to Be a Bug fits into Discovery Island and Animal Kingdom? Matt, do you think it fits where it's supposed to be, or what do you think?
Definitely a 5. Definitely a 5. I mean, I love the use of that IP there. I think it's perfect, and Bugs Life doesn't really have a presence at all anymore. So besides that attraction, I know they had a land in Disneyland. It's gone. So I think it's a perfect fit for it, and I love the fact that it's in the tree of life.
Yep.
So
what do you think, Phil?
So I gave it a 4, although now that I'm thinking about it, I think the fit could be a 5, so maybe it was a high 4 for me. I don't know. But I think physically also the fact that they put it at the base of the tree and you kind of like to walk there, you walk past all the sculptures in the tree and stuff like that. So I think physically it's in a really great spot. So I don't know. I mean, I think learning about the bugs, it's done really well. So I don't know why I gave it a 4. Probably should have given it a 5. I think it does fit really well into Animal Kingdom.
I gave it a 4 because I always make sure I walk that path regardless when I'm in Animal Kingdom as I'm passing, because I think it's awesome kind of getting it up close and personal with it. I mean, part of me wants to rate it at the 4 or 5 mark because it really does just fit right there. But part of me also is like, I wonder if he had more money, like what could it actually be? Like there could be a really cool attraction in the Tree of Life, right? I'm not talking like roller coaster, but maybe something different. But like that's just me being picky. Yeah, exactly, right? Some kind of dark ride, I don't know, but that goes up into the tree. But yeah, I gave it a 4, and I have a Animal Kingdom was the first park I've been to as an adult at Walt Disney World with my kids, and we were walking towards Africa, and I have a picture in my skinny shirt that with my brother-in-law, and we're taking side-by-side pics with Flick as he was walking around, and I just have that memory of it. So I have like a soft spot for that movie and that character. By the way, I wore the same shirt yesterday. I've been losing weight, boys, so I'm getting good. So I could actually fit into a shirt that I wore like 6 years ago. It was wonderful. And that's it. That's for Attractionality number 20 this week, which was really fun. Thanks to Adam, aka Castastone. We got to have him back on, Phil. I think soon.
That's a good idea.
Okay, so we're gonna transition now to. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. We kind of I talked about it. Would you put anything else in this space? And if you had to choose to like pick something else, what kind of attraction or IP would you throw in here or idea, Matt?
I mean, I would leave it with. I like the Bugs Life IP in there. I mean, the only other one that
you're not changing.
Maybe Lion King, but Lion King's got some representation there, and I wouldn't mind throwing something else Lion King related somewhere else in that park. So I'm good with the Bugs Life being there.
Oh, we got it. Well, you did rank 5, so like you're ready. What, Phil? What you mean? You ranked it a 4, so there's a spot maybe for you to fit something. Anything come to mind?
I like it. The other one that comes to mind, I did think about Lion King. I also think Jungle Book could be kind of cool.
Yeah,
like a similar show, but using more animatronics and kind of then you can get more music into it. There's not really music in a Bug's Life and stuff. I mean, there's some music, but not like in a Jungle Book or a Lion King or something like that. So I think Jungle Book could make for a cool show, that type thing there.
I think they could have done something like what I expect from the Moana water whatever it's called that they're building at Epcot. I would love to see a Jungle Book like kind of walk through into whether it's a movie or an attraction or whatever, but you kind of beef up the area, put some more jungles there. I know Tarzan usually sits around there sometimes too. Yeah. And maybe get like some animatronics and pipe in that music and kind of do like a little mini land type of thing. You might hear the music from outside of it and kind of draw you in, that type of thing. I think that would have been really cool. So, all right, cool. Good recommendations. Okay, so here's the topic of the week that Matt spoiled our – that's not a surprise. I'm just kidding, Matt. We got big news this week with the Galactic Starcruiser, including some sample pricing and itinerary, and then that what's led everybody to believe or ask, like, is Disney getting a little bit too expensive for the average Joe? Yeah. So, Phil, let's go over first some of this stuff here. What do I have here on my screen? I'm gonna pull up the Parks blog. They have a really cool, I guess, trailer that I think everybody's seen already a little bit. And then you could kind of go on. They have a whole different website for this where it's basically, start planning your voyage. And everybody's seeing it on screen right now. They got highlights. They've got dining, start planning, prepare for launch. Let's talk about the pricing and then see what we get for that pricing. Okay. So I'm going to show, let's see if I can find the pricing. I had brought it up, and there's the itinerary. Bear with me, everybody. Sorry. I've got the wrong pricing here. Okay. So anyway, it's rather expensive. Phil, what did you think of the pricing? So I'm going to find them here.
So there are standard rooms and suites as well. The standard cabins sleep 4 to 5 passengers. The suites sleep up to 4, but you have a separate living room and that sort of thing. There's also the Grand Captain suite that looks like comes with a butler or something like that. I don't know, but I'm not even going to pretend to. I think that's one of those things. If you have to ask how much it is, you can't afford it. Yes. So what they released in this information is the sample standard cabin rate. So not for the suite or anything like that, but for the standard cabin.
It's now on screen. Sorry.
Okay. And also keep in mind, these are for departures they're saying for the end of August, beginning of September, which is typically a lower cost time to go. So this isn't, this is probably about the cheapest the pricing is going to be. So if you are looking for a spring break or something like that, it's going to be quite a bit more than this.
This is not a spring break kind of trip.
So if you only have, I think we've talked about in the past that this is sort of cruise pricing. It's very much set up like a cruise where it's not just a room. It's you kind of pay per person because it covers your food and things like that. So that's why if there's more people in the room, it's a little bit cheaper versus only using, a room for 2 people. But so for the 2 people, if you go, keep in mind, this is a 2-night experience. Your 2 nights will cost you just about $1,200 per person per night,
for 2 people.
Around $4,800 in total. And then it goes, down per person up to that, but up to what their sample pricing for 4 guests. So kind of a typical family. It says 3 adults with 1 child. I'm assuming.
I don't know what typical family that, unless they're talking about like a teenager.
I'm assuming it's a Disney adult, which starts at 10. So it's probably, say, 2 parents and then say a 12-year-old and an 8-year-old, whatever, something like that. And that would be around $750 per guest per night, or just shy of $6,000. So I know we're all families of 5, but if you, I guess, picked one of your kids to not come with you, would you be willing to pay $6,000 for 2 nights for you, your significant other, and 2 kids to come with you?
I'll let Matt answer that one first.
Well, guys, I got to be honest, man. Like, I'm going to have a different take from both of you guys on this.
That's
one,
fine.
I think.
Wait, are you? I can't remember. Are you a giant Star Wars nerd like I am?
Yeah. Oh, big time. Okay. Big time. I think everything about this just oozes why I love Disney. I mean, this is like cutting edge. It's all new. I mean, I don't know about the role playing. I don't know how that's going to be executed. I don't know if it's going to feel corny and forced, but no pun intended. But I think it sounds awesome. And,
absolutely.
I'm willing to pony up the money for it.
Good. I'm glad you're on here to have that point of view. Good.
So, I mean, I don't know if I'll do it next year or the year after, but, unless the reviews are awful, this is definitely something I want to do. It's on my bucket list. I'm a family of 4, by the way, Phil. So it makes it a little bit easier for me. Yeah, I mean, the pricing's crazy, but this, I mean, there's going to be nothing else like this. I mean, I can't think of anything. I mean, can you guys think of a themed experience like this? I mean, you guys did Rise of the Resistance, right? And the level of immersiveness that's in that attraction, just multiply that by 100, and that's what you're getting with this experience. Is it worth $5,000 for 2 days, whatever? I don't know, but I'm curious. I'm very curious about it.
Well, let me put this in perspective. I would never spend that much money on 2 days, especially looking at the itinerary of what's going on there. Like for me, it's some of that. I mean, like I don't even know if you could fit 5 people. I think I did mention that there was a cabinet for 5, right, Phil? Somewhere
the standard rooms actually fit 4 to 5 people, so they have different. They have
Right.
The standard room is a queen size bed, 2 bunks, and then it has a pull down as well.
Let me ask you this, Phil. Before you pay, you chunk down what is probably about close to $7,000 after taxes for this. Mm-hmm. Would you go to the Starcruiser, or would you buy annual passes for your whole family?
It's obviously very different experiences, yes. I think that's the tough part, right? I mean, I think part of me feels like Matt, right? Like I'm really intrigued by it. I absolutely would want to do it. I just don't know if I could pull the trigger on that much. You know, it's just and I think maybe at someday we could. I think part of it that hurts is like my kids like Star Wars, but they're not. You know, I'm kind of the one that would most want to do it, and they would kind of just go along with me. Whereas I think if like I had one kid that was like really into Star Wars and like this was their birthday present or something like that, maybe it'd be easier to swing. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think if I just have to rearrange the budget from like so many other vacations where we'd be doing this instead of our regular vacation wherever we're vacationing that year or somewhere like that, and you're kind of doing that trade-off for 2 days versus a week somewhere else. And so I don't know, maybe if the reviews come in and they say it's amazing and it doesn't matter, you know, if you want to do it a lot, you don't want it, it's totally worth it, everything's amazing, then maybe I'll talk myself into it. I feel like I'm kind of middle of the road where it's like I'm intrigued by it. I just wish it was about 20% cheaper.
Oh, I mean, like 20 to 50% cheaper.
Yeah. I mean, if you have an annual pass, you know, what you do is you do like a split stay. You do this for 2 and you stay at like Pop Century for 5 days after that. And that's kind of how you can make it work from a financial perspective. But
maybe,
you know, just the type of technology they're putting in and, you know, just you can be able to interact with Rey and Kylo Ren and stuff. It's going to be crazy. I can't wait to hear the reviews on it.
Yeah. Well, I think every time I think about it, I'm really intrigued by it and I want to do it, but I don't know if I'm like desperate to do it. And I kind of feel like the price point is you have to be like really, at least for me with the level of funds that we have, it would have to be something that I'm like dying to do. And I don't know if I'm dying to do it.
See, none of my kids are huge Star Wars fans because they became Marvel people, obviously. So, I mean, the last 3 movies weren't the best ones in the world, so that didn't really capture their imagination. And, you know, but my son's got Darth Vader costumes. My daughter has a Rey costume. So they dig the characters, right? They like the story. I'm going to have to we're going to have to do like a Star Wars marathon or something sometime over the winter just to kind of see if they can, you know, catch lightning in a bottle. I grew up watching these videos. Like my mom, if I was bouncing around the walls, my mom would put in Star Wars and I would be quiet for like 2 hours. So that was my babysitter as my mom was cooking dinner in the other room. So let's go over the itinerary, right? So I'm with you, Phil. If my kids were like, if this was like a Marvel thing, that would make it a little bit juicier because I know my son and my daughter would like really love this.
And obviously it's comparing Disney to Universal, but if they ever did like a Harry Potter one of these,
of course,
my older daughter would be all over that. So,
and before we get, I'm gonna go right to the itinerary after this. The other thing that I think Disney was probably going to do if they're going to build another one of these things, if these become successful at this price point, you know, there's going to be a princess castle experience where you got the ballroom, you're dancing and all that other stuff. You know that's definitely happening. And then that's what I might have to cave in for if it's but again, not like 6,000. I got to get a lot richer or something where $6,000 is going to be like a once in a lifetime type of thing, and it doesn't burn as much.
But I think that's the big, and I don't know if we're jumping ahead here, but I think that's the big question is how many people out there are like Matt or just people that have the available money to do it. Now it's a smallish hotel. There's only about 100 rooms, but are there going to be people that day after day, because it's a 2-day thing, like time after time, and if you've done it once, are you going to pay $7,000 again to do it again? So I'm really interested to see, like, I'm sure right away there's plenty of people that are going to want to do it and have the funds and will do it, but a year from now, 2 years from now, how is it going to be? And do they adapt it? And maybe they say, okay, well, people don't have $7,000, but maybe they have, $2,000 where they can come for a day or something like
maybe
that.
They'll have like special pricing or discounts like Disney always does to try to fill this up. Because if this doesn't fill up, they're going to try to get people to go in. Yeah. So I'm most interested in if we get occupancy rates and all this other stuff for however we can figure that out going through. Like, is this in high demand? It should be interesting. Okay, let's go over the itinerary. Here, I'm going to pop it on the screen. One of the things that jumps off the page to me is you arrive day one at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're booted out right after breakfast on day 3.
Yeah.
So this is not even a 2-day event. This is a day and a half, right? You're not even eating lunch the day you arrive there. You're already fed. You're hopping on. So to me, that's the one thing that's like, why would you spend all this money when you're not even getting like a 2 full days? Like, I would have liked this. Like, you come in at like, let's say middle afternoon, evening, like 6 o'clock, and kind of start for dinner type of thing. Or maybe they build an experience where you go to a Star Wars restaurant that's kind of off property a little bit or something that's not part, and then you get moved into it and take off or whatever the experience might be. But I would want to have like 2 full days. So like on day 3, you're leaving like after dinner or something else like that, and or maybe you throw in, a night at another hotel where you can kind of stay and then go on your day. I don't know. That's how I would have kind of planned for it, but maybe there's enough people that have time to do this. Okay, so the day one, you get there at 1 o'clock. Launch pod to Starcruiser. It's 1:15 to 1:30. The one thing is everything's down to like 30-minute marks, right? There's no chunks of time.
That's what a lot of people are talking about. Like, so does this mean I have to follow? And this is just a sample schedule, which assuming there'll be other ones. But like a lot of people are like, I just kind of want to explore the ship. Like, there's no like free time really on here to kind of like do what you want. It's very scheduled.
So you get a half hour of ship orientation, a half hour of light refreshments, whatever that means, a half hour of sabacc lessons. Okay, so I don't know if anybody's ever taken classes in anything, Matt, but have you ever been able to file into a room, have an instructor come in, and then teach you something, and then file out all within 30 minutes? Has that ever happened anywhere, especially with kids?
That's pretty ambitious.
That's putting it nicely.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it definitely needs some work, this itinerary, but it's their first draft, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt here.
No, you know what? It just feels like an intern wrote down some random type of activities and put sabacc 30 minutes. Then as soon as you leave sabacc, you're mustering, right? So you're doing something. And then as you're waiting around for a half hour without even refreshments, because that was like an hour ago, you got to wait for the captain to show up to give him his speech. He's got a half-hour speech. Then you've got an hour and a half dinner with live music. So I dig that. That's a good time.
Yeah, all the food and stuff sounded really good. Like the dinners sounded amazing.
And then there's a outer rim regalia for 15 minutes. That's 7:15 to 7:30. I don't know what that means, but something happens. And then for another half hour, you've got an unexpected story moment, whatever that might be. You got to pick. It sounds like a lot of the stuff that they wanted in Galaxy's Edge to happen.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So we have this story element, and then the next day you have another story element. I'm going to show this on the screen. So they have story element 7:30 to 8 o'clock, and then the next day you have one from 9:30 to 9:50, so 20 minutes of story elements, and then later that evening 7:30 to 8:45, which is a hour and 15 minutes, which is great. So my point is, what are you paying for? When you're going, I want story elements all day long, right? So maybe there's a lot of droids walking around and people in costumes.
Yeah, I mean that's what they said was
whatever.
more like casual interactions and stuff. I guess these are the more where you have to pick if you're going to be on the Jedi side or the First Order side or whatever. I think that's what these the specific story moment ones
so,
are.
I mean, like, here's the thing. Okay, so let's say you choose two different things: join an elite smuggling ring or hide a stowaway. So there's not that many people. So you have 100 rooms, right? 100 rooms. So you've got, let's say it's full. So you've got 100 times, let's say 3. So you have 300 people in this thing, right? So not full capacity, not like the least amount with 2 people in every room. Does like 100 people decide to go hide a stowaway somewhere, and then another 100 people? Like, that's not fun. That's just kind of like I'm
assuming these are just examples, and there's actually a lot more things. And I also think they'll be staggered. So like, well, some people have their unexpected story moment at 7:30. Other people have theirs at 7. Other people have theirs at 8. So it's like,
good point.
So I think it'll be more smaller groups that you kind of get split up into.
Yeah. So that might make the ship more alive if the story elements going throughout the day. You see people dashing around. I just hope it's not all the same type of stuff. So like, oh, there's somebody hiding a stowaway. Oh, there's somebody hiding a stowaway, and you're like, okay, this is boring. Let's say you're slotted for like the 8 o'clock slot. You've already seen this happen like 5 times with your Outer Rim regalia. They got bridge training for 45 minutes, which I think is cool. It's like the first thing that's now 45 minutes long your first day, and then some entertainment.
And they showed a picture of that, which sounded pretty cool. Like there's all like you just get to push all the buttons and see all the screens. And like that looks like that's going to be really, really fun and kind of really immersive, I think.
Yeah, and then you're going to be in a ship that's constantly moving too. It's going to be pretty wild.
I mean, yeah, I don't think this is just going to be Camp Star Wars, where it's like you have a 15-minute craft activity and you're moving on. The only other thing, like the next day, is similar to all this different stuff, except that right after your story element, you go in to do Smuggler's Run, lunch at Docking Bay 7. You go back to the Starcruiser and you kind of do this. There's,
I guess, just mentioned before that story moment, obviously a breakfast.
Rise of the Resistance, yes.
And then you take the shuttle to Batuu, and then you get on Rise of the, in this sample one. So I guess it's one way to pay for a boarding group.
So, well, here's one thing I didn't realize. Yeah, exactly. $6,000 boarding rise ticket.
No park reservation needed.
Yeah, exactly. So here's one thing I didn't notice, Phil, when I first saw this is you go into the parks first thing in the morning after breakfast. You do Rise, you do your story moment, you do Smuggler's Run, you get lunch, and you go back, right? So your whole morning is basically a day at Galaxy's Edge. Yep. To me, I mean, we knew this was happening. To me, this is kind of wasteful because I can just get a ticket and do all these things.
It does say there's like that story moment, and
right.
Yeah, so I think that's the key is you'll be experiencing the land different than the rest of the guests.
So where's the story moment happening? And as a normal guest of the park, do you get to see these story moments also?
Well, that was the whole thing. I was wondering, like, even just for the lunches and when they're going around, are the regular guests going to see these VIP guests? Are they going to be like herded separately? Or are they like, how are you going to differentiate it or something? So I'm interested to see how they pull that off, because it's not after hours of the park. I mean, they're there until 12.
That's prime time.
Yeah, like the parks are open. So
I thought that was weird.
I'm really interested to see how that works out.
Yeah, I mean, building a model ship for 30 minutes. Racing droids for 20 minutes. I mean, all this stuff just seems kind of like just random things that we can maybe do type of thing. I'm sure this is going to be fleshed out in a lot better as it's going.
And maybe these are just options, like I'm trying to think of, like when I was on my Disney cruise, like there's multiple things going on at one time that you could pick, or you could pick to not do any of them, right? Just rest and relax. So I don't know if that's what this will be too. And this is just like, well, this is what this person picked type thing or whatever, or exactly how it'll be. But
I suspect it's going to be like, you're spending $6,000. It better not be like sitting in a room somewhere, putting a Lego droid together. I'm like, I just want to sit out in the lobby and just see stuff happening, right? That's what most people want to do, right? And participate. So, Matt, any other comments on the Galactic Starcruiser that you were surprised by just by this announcement? Or are you just more intrigued?
I'm intrigued. I definitely want to see some reviews and without being too spoiled too. I want to hear.
That's a good point.
I want to hear if people really enjoy it, and then if the story moment's delivered. But I don't want the whole picture. I want to be able to go in there and kind of experience it, the right way.
I know I'm never going to I'm just saying I'm never going to experience it, at least in its first iteration. By the time I have the cash to kind of do something like this and willing to spend it, They're gonna have this changed up anyway by the time I get to it. So I'm going into this looking for all the different spoilers. I'm sure they've got a show kind of like once it's up and running, like a nice Disney video of like stuff going around and stuff like that's just gonna marketing 101, I expect. All right, so let's transition into the last part of our show, the DBC Expedition this week. 1 week delayed, and that's why we have Matt on and his baby, his burden of love. I don't know what you want to call it, Matt. The DCI.
His glorious purpose.
His glorious purpose, right. I'm going to put on the screen here, Matt, the trends tab. So tell us, or tell the audience what you've been working on other than just kind of updating it as the parks are going along.
So I thought it'd be interesting if we went back in time and looked at, hey, where was DCI, on June 30th of 2020, when just the DVC resorts were open only and the pools were open and, none of the attractions were open. None of the parks were open. All the restaurants for the most part were shuttered. What was the DCI? And I've been trying to work backwards, and it is challenging, and it does take up a lot of time because you got to do a lot of research and try to just Google, hey, when did this restaurant open? What was the open date? And you can kind of start building things that way.
You could probably, and I don't know if you can do this, but go into like a place like WDWNT or Blog Mickey and just kind of Google doing targeted Google searches for like each date and just kind of see what the articles are. I mean, that's a lot of work.
A good idea. Yeah, it is. But so far I got 2 historical dates accomplished. So like I said, the June 30th, 2020, and then I fast forwarded to the end of 2020 because I thought that'd be a good barometer. And I still might jump in and do 1 or 2 months in between that time. But so at the time of having no parks, the DCI was less than 10%. And really, you're only going there to use your DCI points, or I guess maybe an Animal Kingdom, Animal Kingdom Lodge, it might be worth going to solo for a week or something. But it'd be tough without the parks. I know you guys feel the same way.
No, I think we have one of our stored topics, Phil, is what would you pay for a resorts only kind of trip? And yeah, I mean, our baseline essentially is 9.8%. As soon as Disney opened, it was only going to go up from there. So let's talk about New Year's Eve, Matt. I think that's the big one. That's kind of like, okay, we're heading into 2021. There's some optimism in the air. The attractions from the half a year went from 0 to 88.42%, and we're essentially at 94.82% where we're sitting at today. So we saw 16-point bump in the course from the beginning to the very end. So what made you pick New Year's Eve? Is it just because it's a busy day? Is it just the end of the year? What
was the end of the year? It was just trying to get a summary of how the year ended. Where was the state of Walt Disney World at the end of 2020? Still didn't have a ton of resorts open. Still didn't have a lot of restaurants. You can see entertainment was still hurting really hard. I mean, that's been the biggest jump from December 31st to now, and it's still low overall, but I mean that's a quantum jump, going from 2.38% to 38.35%.
So 2021 saw us go from 2.3% to 14% for the first half of the year. So moderate changes as we're following around, and then all of a sudden fireworks come back and we're start popping up into the high 30s. We still got a lot missing, and that's mostly what, Matt, meet and greets you've talked about before, stage shows, that type of thing.
Yeah, so I have a list of some things that of kind of the great misses right now. So and I could go into each category if you guys want. Would you want me to do that?
We've got about 10 minutes, so we dedicate about 15 minutes to this part. So yeah, go for it.
So, so the attractions, let me just kind of get 2 screens here going.
The man with the master plan, essentially, the spreadsheets.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got this work. So Phil, seeing these numbers, were you surprised by the work he's done for like the June and the December dates, or was that kind of like what you were expecting?
I think I've seen some of them before, so it's probably around what I was expecting. But it does kind of, it's really nice to see. Nice is probably the wrong word to talk about anything COVID related, but it's neat to see the kind of just the progression and how it went, and kind of when there were points of jumping up, and just from such a low point that we started from. I also think it's interesting to see how Matt did all the weighting and kind of, because I know from early on, Matt, you're always saying like, look, if you're someone who goes to the park to ride rides, like you'd probably be happy earlier on than the people that go for entertainment and kind of more of those kind of Disney feels type things where, if your kids can't do meet and greets, what's the point of going type thing. So I think that's always important too, knowing that obviously, you asked us, you kind of pulled everyone for how things should be weighted. So it was a little bit of a group consensus, but it still also came down to how these things were weighted. So that's something always to keep in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So attractions, I mean, they're in a good spot. And like you said, they've been there since they opened. That was the first priority that they did. And they were able to do it safely, with the social distancing and the mask wearing. So that kind of worked out well for them. And that's kind of had a slow and steady climb. For the most part, what we're missing is like Typhoon Lagoon, and that's it. I mean, Hall of Presidents is back. Turtle Talk with Crush is coming back. We got Monsters back. There's certain things like the Boneyard still not going. I'm sure that's coming soon. Attractions is in a good spot. The Enchanted Tales with Belle, that's going to wait for a while. I would think when meet and greets come back, that would return. But for the most part, feel pretty good about attractions. And then entertainment, there's still a lot of heavy hitters that are missing. I mean, there's no Fantasmic, there's no, Star Wars Galactic Spectacular, Rivers of Light is done, right? So there's no nighttime entertainment even planned in Animal Kingdom. We're still missing a flagship parade. There's no Festival of Fantasy running.
That's big.
All meet and greets, all of them. I mean, they're doing some socially distance. I don't know how they're doing it in Disneyland. It's still kind of it's a little bit more organized there, right? But they're still not hugging the characters.
Correct. No. It's the same like distant thing, and obviously they added a whole bunch of new characters with Avengers Campus and stuff like that. But even there, they're doing a show or they're up on a ledge or whatever. It's
all
not,
distanced. Yeah.
Nobody's hugging anybody.
Right. So in most of the theater shows, I mean, we got Beauty and the Beast live on stage coming back, which is kind of interesting because a lot of people predicted that thing was going extinct, right? Finding Nemo, the musical, and Indiana Jones. I mean, it's crickets from those
Mermaid
shows. Voyager, the Little Mermaid, right? And then Streetmosphere stuff is still way down. So that's why entertainment's only, where it's at, 38.35%.
You got all the Disney Junior stuff too, which is crickets as well.
Exactly. So that's got ways to go. So moving on to dining. So dining's getting there. 72.83%. We still have some signatures closed, like the Monsieur Paul's and the Flying Fish. We did just get Yachman Steakhouse, which is nice. Victoria and Albert's, you would think has got to be coming soon, but it's closed. Gico and, some others, and who would have thought that Citricos would have been the first signature restaurant to open since September of 2020. That was kind of a surprise. It's definitely moving in the right direction, and then from the quick service front, most of the higher tier quick service restaurants have reopened, with the exception of Tangerine Cafe, which is kind of like, it's kind of open, but it's kind of not, it's operating as a food and wine booth. We did just have Columbia Harbor House reopen. So that was a real popular one. So we're definitely getting there. And in the lounges from dining,
let me jump in there. Sure. 1 second, Matt. Yeah. Phil, we talked about Harbor House last week and how I've never eaten there before. I was listening to the Disney Dish, and apparently, according to all their metrics, that's one of the most popular, highly rated quick service places at Magic Kingdom, which surprised me because I never really thought about it. I mean, I didn't, not think about it, but it was just like,
I think it's one of those things too. the people that go there because they want the food that's offered there, so they like it, right? So it's whereas something like Cosmic Rays, you're going there because okay, well, I guess I got stuff my kids will eat or whatever.
Exactly.
So I think that's why I'm not surprised the ratings are high for Columbia House Harbor, because I think the people that go there are going there for a reason.
Absolutely.
So Matt, we interrupted you. You were about to hop on to resorts, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, so resorts, we have reopening dates for all of them, so that should definitely start climbing up. I mean, but you have to remember that it's not just resorts. I have bubble perks built into resorts, so
there you
things
go.
like the fast pass 60 days and the advanced dining, reservations at 180 days. Those things are still gone, and I don't know if they're coming back.
They're not.
So but we did get some transportation back. We got the Epcot monorail back, which is nice.
Yep.
And the boats to Disney Springs, hopefully they'll come back when Port Orleans opens up in October. That's the big hope. So things are definitely moving in the right direction in resorts. So feel pretty good about that. The paid events. So we obviously got the 2 after hours parties. The Halloween party and the Christmas party, but we're still missing some of the other after hours events that was in effect.
Yep.
And I was always waiting for something at Hollywood Studios to develop, especially with Galaxy's Edge. I know they did run one for Toy Story Land, and I was hoping they would do something for Galaxy's Edge, and maybe that's still on the plate at some point. But we're missing all the dessert parties, and I'll be honest with you guys, I'm really shocked on that. I thought they'd be back by now, so that really must be a labor issue.
Well, I mean, I think once I think we'll definitely start seeing them again once the Christmas and Halloween parties kind of roll through into the new year, and they've got nothing to make after hour money. So they're like, okay, we're going to do some dessert parties at this point. Well, how fleshed out they will be, who knows? But I don't think there's a space for them. I think they're getting the labor ready for the because those parties start within the next couple of weeks, right? 2 weeks. I forget what the first date is.
This Tuesday coming up.
There you go. Next in a couple of days. So I think they just
they've already been they've been putting out the Halloween decorations already out.
Right. Yeah.
On Main Street
I totally forgot how early. I know they put the decorations out early. I forgot how fast the parties start. But I suspect we'll see dessert parties right after Christmas comes and goes. Oh, and we lost my camera for whatever reason. I'm gonna switch out there. Bear with me, you guys. That was weird. All right, I think I'm back. So the other thing that I want to talk about is, Matt, I wanted to bring up, if they go to paid fast passes, does that get put into paid events or seasonals type stuff in your category?
That would probably go down. I mean, I don't know. It's a good question. Is it just for on resort guests? And if it is, then it would be some type of bubble perk bonus.
Okay.
It would probably go in the resort bucket, but maybe not if anybody can get it. So you're right. I got some work to figure out there, Jason.
Where did you put once it finally comes in, where would you put the deluxe access to parks late at night? Where does that go?
So right now I have that in resorts. I haven't factored that in yet because I'm waiting for more specifics about it. And we would just know that it's the Monday and Wednesday right now I think Monday is Magic Kingdom and Wednesday is Epcot.
Right.
That flipped. And that's just for the first couple of weeks of October. But if you read some of the rumors from the good sources, they say that it's not a complete list and that the other parks are planned. So I'll be waiting to see what they're doing with Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom.
Right.
So I want to see that fleshed out before, but that would go in a resort bonus, obviously. I mean, that's definitely specifically targeted for the deluxe resorts.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think we really need to talk about Disney Springs. It's been pretty consistent since it's open. It's only kind of bumped up because I guess a couple of different restaurants opened over time, right?
Yeah, I mean, like NBA Experience. I don't know when that's coming back, and there's a couple like bar type of things.
Has anybody missed it?
No, I don't think so. And the other thing is Bippity Boppity Boutique. I thought that.
Oh, right. Yep.
So that's at Disney Springs and Magic Kingdom, and I think at the Poly. Is it the Grand Floridian? One of those resorts has something like that. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm waiting on that too. But I think the Delta kind of screwed up stuff a little bit on where we were going.
For sure. The last question I have, or maybe it's the last request I have for DCI, I would love to see where the parks were mid-July when people started coming and going to the parks. So I forget when the parks opened. Like, was it July 14th or 15th, somewhere mid-month, I think, last year?
It was around then, yeah.
My sister was there about a week after opening, and she loved it. So I think that's an interesting point, Matt. If we can get like a couple days after or the day that everything opened as a comparison, I think that'd be cool, and we can kind of come on and discuss that type of thing down the road.
Yeah, I could put that together.
Okay, well, that's our DBC expedition of this week. Matt's given us the rundown and basically the update, like what's to come, how we can get this back up. I'm really curious to see in a year from now or whenever everything's over and hopefully everybody's vaccinated at that point, people decide to love thy neighbor and take care of everybody's health, that where Disney is once they're now full go for the future. They've got all the new attractions, Tron, Guardians. They've got the paid Fast Pass stuff that they're coming into place, the new annual passes, and then things like the kites and stuff like that from Animal Kingdom, and all the different things that they're adding and they've taken away. I can't wait to see where do we shake up. So Disney 2023 versus Disney 2019. Like, are we still in a deficit? Have we gone over? And I'd be really curious how you weight a lot of those things, Matt. So I hope your passion for this burns for another year and a half or something else like that, and you can keep going. So we can at least keep some kind of historical tracking of this type of stuff. I think this is a historical document that you're putting together right now. It's great.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I'm still optimistic too that we're not going to go backwards, so we're not going to start removing components I kind of had that worry a little bit, but I think they're just going to kind of plow through and, we're going to get through this. We are.
I totally agree. Very good optimism. And if anything, everything's delayed a couple months before everything gets rocking again. And then with that, we're going to go into our DBC recommends for this week. This one's mine. With my change of plans going from October to February for my trip, normally you would have to cancel everything, rebook everything, get on the phone, transfer your deposit or make a new one and wait for your other ones to come back, because I have 2 reservations tied together. And instead of having to do all that, track all that stuff down, I shot an email to my travel agent and I said, I want to change from this to this. Okay, where do you want to stay? I want to stay here. Done. I'm now working on it. And that's all I had to do. And for those out there that, in case you don't know, because my sister has never used a travel agent before, and she's an expert DVC member, right? So she knows everything inside and out. You don't have to pay anything extra. And if you find a travel agent that's charging you more than the cost from Disney, don't go with them, because they're probably doing something different. There's plenty of excellent travel agents out there that all they do is they help you plan and change all this stuff. So I recommend, even if you are the Uber planner like I am or like Phil is, get a travel agent. Maybe all you have to do is they just book the trip for you, and then you just do everything else exactly the way you do it now. You do your own park reservations, whatever the fast passes come in, the ADRs, everything else like that, you do on your own. Now, if you want them to do it, they will certainly do that for you as well. Just when you find a travel agency, and we're not going to recommend one on the show, but if you have a travel agent and you email them and they do not get back to you within 24 hours or even 12 hours of an email, go find another travel agent. Find one that's going to respond to you within a couple hours of any inquiry, even if it's just like, I'll get to you in a moment, I'll do this tomorrow. You're looking for somebody that's extremely communicative, and that's the only recommendation I have. And the one I have that I booked through is, I emailed her randomly this morning, and literally an hour later she responded with, where do you want to go, what dates, and all this other stuff, and everything was processed within a couple hours. I'm still waiting for the confirmation of the change and all that type of stuff, but get a travel agent. That being said, guys, we're now over, as we usually are, Phil. We're 7 minutes over the hour. Guys, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy the expedition with Matt going over the DCI. Links are on every single one of our show notes, so that's always there. And have a great week, everybody, and take care. See you next week.
Bye, everyone.